Forget Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Now hunting season. That's what my brother Oliver and I look forward to every year once the weather starts to get cold. Now the story that I'm about to share with you is something that happened to my brother and I on our last hunting trip, which was almost a year ago. Some of the things I'm about to tell you are going to sound crazy, and that's because they are. If it hadn't happened to me, I probably wouldn't even believe it myself. My adventure began December 26, 2018. I had just made it through the last few hours of my shift, and I was excited because me and my brother were going hunting today. I wasn't having the best week. A couple of people quit at my job, so me and a few of my other coworkers had to pick up some extra shifts. Don't get me wrong, everybody likes a little overtime, especially around the holidays, but not getting enough sleep and dealing with a bunch of idiots on a daily basis is enough to wear down on anyone. I woke up early that morning, around 5 a.m., and then turned on the coffee maker as I walked to the bathroom. When I return to the kitchen, I pull my coffee mug from the cabinet and place it on the counter, then head out to the garage to pull out all of my hunting gear. After I find everything that I need, I lug it all inside and toss it onto the couch in the living room. I hop in the shower and wash with the deodorizing soap so that predators can't pick up on my scent easily. Once I'm done, I get dressed and begin putting all of my supplies into my pack when my phone rings. It's my girlfriend Cora. She's calling to warn me about a snowstorm that's supposed to start later this afternoon. I don't call a few inches of snow a storm, but Cora is known to exaggerate things. I question whether I should still go or not, but Oliver and I have gone hunting plenty of times in the snow before. Honestly, I like it better because it's easier to track animals since you can see their footprints in the snow. Much to Cora's dismay, I make the decision to still go and proceed to finish packing. Then I head to the kitchen and add a few water bottles and snacks to my pack before grabbing 2 breakfast sandwiches from the freezer. I place them in the microwave and pour a cup of coffee while I'm waiting for them to heat up. Not wanting to waste any more time, I scarf them down as quickly as possible and then check to make sure I haven't forgotten anything before locking up and heading out to go pick up my brother. The vibe on the drive over to his house is a little eerie. For some reason, I was getting a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach. It's 6:30 in the morning on a weekday, and I only drive past one other truck on the way over there. Normally, there would be heavy traffic this time of morning, but it seemed as if everyone had left town or they were all inside their homes still in bed. I turn on the radio to try to distract myself from the nauseousness I'm starting to feel, but for some reason, it just makes me feel worse. When I reach my brother's house, I climb out of the truck and knock on the door. When there's no answer, I turn the knob, but it's locked, so I begin to walk around the yard in search of him. Just as I turn the corner to head into the backyard, an echo rings out. I find him chopping wood back there. He props the axe up against a tree stump, and then I help him carry the wood that he has already chopped up onto the porch. Once his hands are free, he grabs his hunting pack from the porch swing and we get on the road. We're heading out to our hunting spot, which is a vast amount of land in rural Pennsylvania. One of our buddies owns it. He would usually meet us up there, but his wife just gave birth to their first child, so he's sitting this year out. Not even 5 seconds after I had just passed the last traffic light out of town, a baby white-tailed deer leaps out of nowhere and bounds across the road right in front of me. Immediately, I slam on my brakes, but I still end up hitting the tail end of him. I mutter a few choice words under my breath, then pull over to the side of the road to check the damage. Meanwhile, Oliver's sitting over there in the passenger seat just laughing up a storm. To my surprise, there's no damage whatsoever. I breathe a sigh of relief and get back into the truck. Luckily, I guess the deer was just small enough that it didn't wreck my vehicle. So I proceed to drive toward our destination, but for some reason, I still can't shake the weird feeling that I had. It was still pretty dark when we arrived. All I could see as we drove up the long winding driveway were the pitch-black openings between the trees here and there. I park and cut off the truck. Oliver gets out and starts to collect his gear from the trunk, but I sit there for another minute just thinking. The silence up here is unreal. I gaze down at the temperature gauge in the truck and it reads 25 degrees. I step out of the truck, stretch, and let out a yawn. Then I head to the trunk to grab my gear as well. I rest my bag on the tailgate, unzip it, and grab a headlight from inside. No sooner do I zip the bag back up and place the light over my scully when I hear something that sounds like a sneeze. "Bless you," I tell Oliver. "What'd you say?" he calls from the porch of the cabin. When I repeat myself, he looks at me confused and replies, "Thanks?" "Well, didn't you just sneeze?" I ask. He tells me that no, he didn't. I scan the driveway and surrounding area but don't see anyone or anything. "I swear I heard someone sneeze," I whisper to myself. A chill runs through me, and I suddenly get the feeling that I'm being watched. I dismiss it as just a critter in the woods, then turn on my headlamp, grab my pack, and follow Oliver onto the path. We walk for about 20 minutes when the sun finally starts to rise above the mountains. It's shining so bright that I can see the frost glistening. The birds start to chirp and sing, bringing a smile to my face. Then we come across a tiny bridge that leads us over a creek. When we stop to take a quick break and have some water, I hear the sneeze sound again. This time it sounds like it's a short ways down the path in the direction that we just came from. My heart skips a beat and I glance over at Oliver to see if he heard it too this time. He agrees that he heard something, but he says he's not sure that it was a sneeze. I stand up and shout down the path, "Is anyone there?" I don't expect to get an answer. No one else should be up here because this is private property. When no one replies, Oliver assures me it's probably just a bird or something. We walk deeper into the woods, then come to a fork in the path. To the left side, the grass looks trampled like people went down it every single day, and the right side has tall grass covering the ground. You could barely tell it was even a path at all. We knew that there had most likely been no people out here, so our only other thought was that a bear must have trampled the grass on the left side. We came up here to hunt deer. We weren't looking for any run-ins with a bear, so we decided to take the path to the right. I let Oliver lead the way, and it's a good thing I did because the path was so overgrown that we weren't able to see the frozen puddles of water. He learned about them the hard way. "Payback's a bitch," I tell him, referring back to when he thought it was funny that I'd hit that baby deer. He gives me a look like he's shooting daggers at me as I crack up with laughter. I trip over a log and out of instinct reach for the first thing that I can grab a hold of. I end up grabbing a thorn bush. Once I'm free, Oliver retrieves the first aid kit from his pack and pulls out a pair of tweezers. I flinch each time he removes a thorn from my palm. Serves me right, I guess. I should have been wearing my gloves. I'd shoved them into my pocket and forgotten to put them on. Just as I'm getting up, I spot movement out of the corner of my eye, but when I look to see what it is, there's nothing there. We continue to trudge along the path through the tall grass until we come to a hill, and once we climb over it, we're greeted by a big open lake. I don't remember this, do you? I ask Oliver. No, I don't either, he answers. We'd only been hunting on this land a few times before, but I know I would have remembered this. And our buddy who owned the land had never mentioned anything about a lake before. But the view, it was mesmerizing. The lake had an elegant blue tint to it, and it was so clear that you could see the reflection of the sky. The entire area was dead silent. No wind, no birds, nothing, just silence. There was only one way to go from there, so we followed the path. As we walk along, I scan the area and freeze like a deer caught in the headlights when my eyes come to rest upon a large cross in the distance. I call after Oliver, who's up ahead of me, and wait for him to come here. When he reaches me, I point at it. He removes his sunglasses and stares at it in surprise. I thought this was supposed to be private property. What in the hell is that doing out here in the woods, in the middle of nowhere? I thought so too, and I don't know, man, I reply. Then I start to walk toward it. Oliver grips me tightly by the arm. What are you doing? I just want to get a closer look, I say. He remains where he is, but lets go of my arm. When I've nearly approached it, I hear that same sneezing sound that I heard earlier. This time, I hear it as clear as day. I'm sure of it. I feel my knees slightly give out from fear, but manage to get my bearings and turn in the direction that it came from. Then I see something. In the lake. I slowly walk toward it, looking all around me the entire time to see if I can determine what made that noise. Then suddenly, an overpowering smell hits me. My throat starts to tighten. The nauseous feeling that I'd had this morning returns to my gut. Then as I reach the lake, I bend down and realize that the thing that I saw was actually the head of a woman. I stand there frozen in fear, just staring at it. One side of it is sticking out of the water, exposed. It has no flesh or meat on it, just pale white skull and a few strands of long, dark brown hair. I turn around and vomit into the grass. Oliver's gawking at me with a look of concern on his face. He's making his way over now. Just as I raise my hand to wipe my mouth off, I hear a blood-curdling scream echo throughout the woods. I think it came from that direction, Oliver informs me, pointing at the cross. I don't know what comes over me, but I start sprinting through the tall grass towards the cross. Oliver protests, but chases after me. I reach the edge of the woods and they open up into a large field. All the way across the field on the other side is a huge church with the wooden cross that we'd seen sitting on top of it. When Oliver finally catches up to me, I start to jog toward it, shouting, "Hello, is anyone in there?" But I get no response. I continue to race toward it, and when I'm about halfway there, I trip over something and stumble forward. When I catch my balance, I turn around to see what it was that I tripped on, and there's the skull of some kind of animal lying there in the grass. It looks like it could have belonged to a cow, sheep, or goat. The first thought that comes to mind is that maybe there's someone nearby who owns a farm. A wild animal could have gotten a hold of one of their animals, or it may have just gotten loose on its own. I point it out to Oliver. He suggests that we just turn around and leave. "You heard that scream, didn't you? It sounded like someone needed help," I argue. He lets out a long sigh. "All right, come on." We cautiously walk the rest of the way toward the church. There's a wooden fence, a few feet tall, surrounding it. Oliver and I hop over it. Now that we're close up, I get a good look at the church. It's obviously been sitting here for a very long time. The wood is rotted. It looks hazardous to even walk up the steps leading to the door. I yell again, "Hello, is anybody in there?" There's still no answer. I jump when I hear a cracking sound behind me. Oliver decided to lean up against the fence and he broke it. I walk over to help him up, and just as I hold out my hand, I hear soft chanting coming from inside of the church. Oliver starts to say something, but I motion for him to stay quiet. He hears it too and looks up at me with a look of surprise. I can't make out what they're saying. Maybe they're singing. But what I can tell is that it's definitely in a different language. They keep repeating it over and over, and then suddenly it gets louder. It sounds like there are a lot of people in there. After helping Oliver up, I make my way up the steps and peek through a stained glass window at the top of the door. I see no lights, no people, nothing but a few little beams of light streaming in through the cracks in the walls. I walk around to the side of the building and peek through another window. This time I can see some pews. Then suddenly, the chanting stops, and just as I begin to back away from the window, I catch a glimpse of something black. I quickly peek back inside and see what looks like someone in a robe passing by the window. I whisper to Oliver to come over, but by the time he gets there, the shadow is gone. I dart around to the back of the church to see if maybe I'll see it again, but find that there are no windows back there. What I do see sends shivers through my body. Carvings, shaped like pentagrams with some sort of skull in the middle of them, cover the whole back of the building. Immediately, I know that we made a huge mistake coming here. Something's not right about this place. I'm just about to tell Oliver that I think we better get the hell out of here when I hear the sound of a door open and then close. Then we hear two male voices coming from the front of the church. My heart starts to beat out of my chest. Then someone shouts, "Hey!" I turn around to see two men in long black robes coming toward us, both of them holding something in their hands. Both Oliver and I raise our shotguns, but they keep walking toward us. The man on the right lifts his hand and throws something at us. Luckily, whatever it is, we dodge it. I tell them, "Look, we don't want any trouble." The two men glance at each other and then start running at us. A shot rings out. Oliver puts one right through the head of the asshole on the right. He collapses to the ground, and the other man stops and stares at his lifeless body. Then an evil grin spreads across his face as he looks back toward the church. He yells something in that strange language that I heard coming from inside. The chanting starts back up again, and the man turns and locks eyes with Oliver. Then suddenly, a trail of men and women wearing the same long black robes come walking out of the church, still chanting. As they begin to approach us, the man turns around and disappears into the mob. I'm in shock. I literally don't know what to do. Oliver and I can't possibly shoot them all. I start to back away when a woman at the front of the mob lets out a blood-curdling scream that rattles my eardrums. It sounds exactly like the one that we heard when we were at the lake. I hear another gunshot ring out. Oliver shoots the woman in the leg, and she falls to her knees and begins to whimper. The mob stops moving, and they all stare right at us. Every single one of them, their faces have all been mutilated somehow. I see now that not all of them could have been chanting, because some of them have their lips sewn shut, and others are missing their eyes, but they still seem to be staring directly at us. The woman gets back on her feet and then points behind me. At that exact moment, I feel someone breathing down the back of my neck. I turn around to see an extremely tall man staring at me. Then he opens his mouth and a sound comes out, the same sneeze sound I've been hearing. Then he grabs me by my pack and slams me on the ground. My gun goes flying. I hear more gunshots, but I can't see what's going on because I'm still lying on the ground with the wind knocked out of me. When I hear screaming, I manage to pick myself up and see the people in the robes cheering and reaching toward the sky. The tall man looks at me and glares. Frantically, I look all around searching for Oliver, but I can't find him. Then I see a gun lying on the ground about 30 feet away. I don't know if it's mine or his because we have the same one. Desperate to make an escape, I start running through the open field. I can hear heavy footsteps close behind me. When I run in between these two lit fire torches, all of the screaming stops and I can no longer hear them chasing after me. I stop running and turn around to see that they are all just standing there on the other side of them. I stand there for a second, panting and trying to catch my breath. Then a man in the crowd starts chanting something in that strange language again, and then they just all slowly turn around and start walking back toward the church. I take another look around for Oliver, but I see nothing other than the open field and the church. I take a minute to think, how in the hell am I going to get out of here? My gun, my pack, everything that I need to survive is back there at that church. I realize that I need to go back for it if I want to make it out of there. As soon as I see the last of them go back into the church, I sprint back through the field towards my things. Before I can make it there, a snarling sound echoes all around me, and then a rancid smell fills my nose. Something flashes past me to my left. I turn to look and see a hideous creature slowly rise up from the ground. It's tall and skinny, and it makes a licking noise like a dog licking peanut butter from the roof of its mouth. Once it lifts its head to look at me, I'm able to see that it has the head of a woman with horns, but the body of a goat. As it charges at me, I let out a scream, and so does the beast, but its scream is more of a yelp and the scream of a woman combined. I turn around and start to run. Damn it, I wish I had my gun. This thing is so fast that it catches up to me in a matter of seconds and rams me right in the ass, sending me flying through the air. As I lie there on the ground, exhausted and defeated, this beast stomps on my hand with one of its massive hooves. I scream from the pain and curl into a ball as this creature continues to harass me. When it finally gives up and decides to leave me alone, I leap to my feet, grab my gun, and point it at the back of the beast's head. I can barely hold the damn thing, my hands are shaking so badly. But I manage to pull the trigger and shoot it in the leg. It lowers its head like it's about to ram me again. I jump out of the way and shoot at it once more. This time I hit it right between the eyes. It falls to the ground and flops around like a fish out of water as I rush forward, grab my pack, and toss it onto my back. Then I dash through the field once again. The people have come back out of the church. Now they've formed a circle and are surrounding it, and they've started chanting again. I run and run. Then finally, after I'm just about to give up and call it quits, trees appear in the distance. The closer I get to them, I can see that there is a trail leading through the woods. I start to follow it, and as I'm stumbling down it, I realize that there are wooden posts all along each side of it, and they have the same exact carvings on them that were on the back of the church. I start to run along the trail, but it just seems to keep going. I don't know how long I've been out here, but the sun is starting to go down now, and it's beginning to snow. I glance at my watch but see nothing but a blur of numbers. I don't know how in the hell I managed to forget my cell phone back in the truck, but I did, so I have no way of calling Oliver to see where he is. I doubt there would be any service out here anyway. My pace starts to slow down because I'm getting really tired. But when I start to hear heavy breathing coming from down the trail behind me, I pick up speed again. With every second, the heavy breathing gets louder and louder, and then I begin to feel vibrations on the ground. The loud thuds hitting the ground sound like some kind of hooves, and definitely more than one set of them. Almost like warriors marching into a battle. Now they're coming from every direction, and the next thing I know, my feet are being pulled out from under me. Hooves are coming down on every inch of my body. I can hear my bones cracking and feel my flesh being torn from different parts of my body. I lay there in complete agony as these things tear me apart. Then one of them stomps on my head, and I feel my skull crush beneath the weight of its hoof. Then I hear nothing. I see nothing. I feel absolutely nothing at all. When I'm finally able to gain back enough strength to open my eyes, all I can see are black spots. When my vision starts to come back, I see that I'm still lying in the snowy woods, all bloodied and battered. Painfully, I pick myself up and take a look around. I'm right next to the lake, the one that Oliver and I came across at the beginning of our hunting trip. I have no idea how I made it back here, but I limp my way over to the path that leads back to the cabin and my truck. When I finally make it there, I climb inside and reach for the cup holder to grab my phone. I managed to dial 911, but that's the last thing I remember. When I wake up in the hospital, the police come in to take my statement, but I don't know what to tell them. I mean, come on, I really don't even understand what happened out there in those woods. I describe how Oliver and I went out there to go hunting, and then we got lost. We stumbled upon what we thought was an abandoned church, but there were actually people inside, and then they attacked us. I was able to get away, but I don't know what happened to my brother. They searched the woods and find Oliver's mutilated body a week later, but they said they never found a church. Even to this day, I still wonder what those things I saw were. Was it some kind of a demented cult? Was it the work of the devil? Did it really even happen? I don't know. I mean, I think it did. I guess I'll never really know, without Oliver being here to back up my story. Don't forget to subscribe for new stories weekly. See you next time on
Nina's Nightmares.
Really? You're supposed to click the like button, not me. Ugh.